Hey guys, Scott here. I'm in fact wearing the same shirt 2 days in a row. Today I want to talk about the butterfly effect and how it relates to DBD. For those who do not know, the butterfly effect is a movie starring Ashton Kutcher, and I want to talk about how Ashton Kutcher is very related to the lore of DBD. The entity is No, I'm talking about the actual theory, the butterfly effect, which basically says that if you do something very small, it could have a profound effect later due to rippling effects and stuff like that. And I think Dead by Daylight is one of those games that exemplifies this more than any other game I've ever played. I think this is one of the most snowbally games that has ever been made before because of the nature of time efficiency and how the asymmetrical nature of it makes it so every action you take can completely change everything 5 minutes later. Not even 5 minutes later, just a couple minutes later. And I think kind of an example might be a better idea. So, like, just, let's pretend that the match starts, I'm playing Huntress or something like that. And I want to show you how 1 centimeter on my mouse can change the entire game. So, match starts, I see a guy running across the map. I throw a hatchet, but my mouse is 1 centimeter to the right, so I miss the hatchet. That guy knows where I am now. He's too far away to really start a chase with, so I kind of have to leave him, and then that guy is going to be unopposed on a generator for probably a long amount of time. And, I'm not stopping that gem progress from being done anymore. Alternatively, I can try making the distance. It's going to take me 30 seconds to catch up, but that means there are 3 other people, because this is the beginning of the match, there are 3 other people that are now working on gens unopposed as well. So either way, it's a lose-lose situation if I miss that hatchet. And because of that, the gens can get done very fast. When gens are unopposed, the game can go immensely fast. As soon as you bring some opposition in, the game slows down a lot. So let's say my mouse was 1 centimeter the other direction, and I do hit the hatchet. Well, I can be in the same scenario. I don't necessarily have to go chase that guy. I can just leave him. Let's say I do leave him. He goes and starts working on a gen, or he goes to get healed. Those are really his options there. If he goes to work on a gen, the next time I see him, it'll be like an instant down, so our chase will be non-existent, which is good for me. However, if he goes to, like, let's say he goes somewhere to heal, or he had a teammate next to him who starts healing him. I have nurses calling. Let's say I see them healing. Now I can down the guy that was getting healed, and now he's slugged, and now I can start chasing the guy that was doing the healing. So now I'm chasing the guy. That guy's not doing a gen. The guy on the floor is not doing a gen. And now a third guy has to get off a gen to go pick up the slugged guy. And then by the time they are finished healing up, I've downed the second guy, and then I hook that guy. I see the other 2 guys, the original guys from Barbecue and Chili, and then I go back there, which means now I'm pressuring those 2, which means the 4th guy has to get off a generator to come save the other guy. And now suddenly, because my mouse was a centimeter to the left, the entire game has changed, and now nobody is working on generators because of one tiny event like that. And that's the kind of shit I'm talking about, where this game is so snowbally, the smallest little thing can completely change the outcome of a match. And the reason I want to bring this up is because it's a cool topic, first of all. And second of all, there is a repeated pattern of people going on forums and basically posting clips from their favorite content creators where they are claiming that they're getting gen rushed and they played perfectly and there's nothing they can do to stop it. And they do this for everybody. I've seen people post clips from every content creator under the sun that plays killer, including me. So this is not like targeting anyone in particular because they do this for everybody. And it's always the same post. Look how fast these gens went. There's nothing this guy could have done about it. He played perfectly. And I want to go over how ridiculous some of that is. First off, they didn't play perfectly. Every time I see someone post a clip like this or a game like this, they didn't play perfectly. You can point out 5 mistakes within 2 minutes. And, obviously mistakes are easier to point out in hindsight. So, I mean, it's normal for humans to make mistakes. Expecting them to play a perfect game is ridiculous. That's never going to happen. So, yeah, although the mistakes are in hindsight, claiming that they played perfectly and there's nothing they could have done is just bullshit. And you gotta know that. Secondly, how do you have the audacity to claim that you know every possible outcome that could have happened had they done one thing differently? Because if they do one thing differently, literally a million other things could have happened in that match. For example, let's say that the killer is chasing someone like at an LLT wall. He's chasing an injured guy at an LT wall. And the killer misjudges the distance and thinks he can just hold W and hit them before they get to the window, instead of doubling back and, predicting the vault. And so he misses. The survivor gets some distance because now the killer's got to go around the T-wall, and the chase is extended by a certain amount of time. So that's a bad thing. Nothing is being pressured. No pallets are being broken or anything like that. The map is not being any less safe. Everyone else is working on gens. Bad situation. Let's say instead the killer does double back and he does get that down. Well, now it starts that whole process where I talked about where now that guy gets hooked. If you chase the guy that's coming for the save, now that guy can't unhook and he's not doing a gen. So a third guy's got to come off. And then you start this whole cycle of nobody doing gens because you made one tiny play correctly instead of incorrectly. And that's why I think it's kind of bullshit when people say that there's nothing they could have done, because you can't possibly have known what would have happened had they done one little thing different. Say they down that guy, and then, then they chase the second guy, and, he runs by a generator that was 99 because he had to try to come save another guy, and then now you can pop that generator. Now that gen doesn't get done, and because of that, the game doesn't end, which gives you enough time to down. There's no way you can possibly predict the amount of things that can happen with each individual change. And there are hundreds of these decisions every game, which leads to millions and millions of outcomes. There's no way you can predict that. So, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that the game can't be bullshit sometimes. If you have, a very sweaty 4-man and you're on a very bad map and you're playing a bad killer, there's not much you can do a lot of the time. But to claim that there's nothing you can do, and to claim that you know everything that could have happened, due to every choice that they made, is just kind of ridiculous. And I think a lot of this comes down to the main reason killers complain about gen rushing is because they don't understand map pressure properly. I know that's also a counter meme too. Just pressure the map far ahead when it's red forest and it's 8 miles long. Yeah, I understand that shit is dumb too. But I'm saying I think one of the main problems a lot of killer players have, even if they're very experienced, is they don't understand that the goal is to prevent the generators from being finished, not to kill people. And then you might say, well, if you kill people, they can't do gens. And yeah, obviously, when you kill a person, that person can no longer work on a generator, and that's great. But your end goal is making sure that the generators are not finished, because that lets people escape. That's your end goal as a killer. So I think something a lot of killers don't realize is that sometimes you have to just let people go. And a lot of people can't do that. They think if I started this chase and I've got him injured, he's so close, I can just down him. And they sort of just tunnel vision on that guy. And this is where a lot of the gen rushing complaints happen. It's when they start the match, they have a bad first chase. Not even a bad first chase, just a minute long, regular chase. I guess that is a bad chase. And then because of that, 3 gens pop while they're chasing one guy. And then their head, they just go gen rush. But the thing is, you're not doing anything else to stop the other survivors from doing the only thing they can do at that time. And I think it would benefit a lot of killers if they realize that sometimes you just have to let the person you're chasing go. If they're at a structure that's too strong, or you can see things in advance where they can loop things, like they can chain tiles together and stuff like that, you have to realize that, chasing that guy and downing him is nice, but when you're running and chasing that guy and you hear a gen that's being worked on to your left, 9 times out of 10, it's actually a better decision to ditch the chase and go stop that generator from being worked on, because that has its own snowball effect, because now that gen doesn't get finished, and maybe you down that guy, and now you can use Pop Goes the Weasel on it. Now that gen is regressing a lot, or you have Rune or something like that, and it's regressing a lot. There are so many things that happen when you just stop people from doing gens rather than just beelining and chasing somebody directly. So if I had a piece of advice to killers, it would be, it's more important to stop people from doing gens and get them away from gens than it is to down people. Eventually, you're going to have to commit to a chase, but, it gets to a point where if you hit people and then they just run right back to the generator, your chases are drastically shortened because they're missing an entire health state. And if you're a killer like Huntress or Deathslinger, anyone that can very easily get hits, staying injured while working on a gen becomes very, very scary. So, yeah, I think the advice I would give is learn to abandon chases sometimes. Even if it's the beginning of a match, you have to stop the generators from being worked on, even if you abandon a chase. Because a lot of killers feel like that they're not accomplishing anything then. They've devoted time to this chase, and then they feel like because they don't down that person, they failed. But you got to look at it. You've actually probably broken a lot of pallets in that area too if they're using resources, which means you've created a dead zone, and there's probably generators in that dead zone, and people will eventually have to do those generators, meaning in the future, those chases will be immensely easier now because there's nothing around them. So you did still accomplish something, and now you're also accomplishing another thing by getting people off a gen. So I'm not saying ditch every chase when you hear a generator being worked on, but I think you should prioritize getting people off the gens over downing people to some extent. And that's where I think a lot of the gen rushing complaints come from. So that's really what I wanted to talk about, the whole butterfly effect thing. This game is incredibly snowbally. You can never predict every single thing that's going to happen. The smallest change from a centimeter left on your mouse hitting a hatchet can completely change the match. So it's very hard to say that there's nothing you could have done. You should always have the attitude, well, maybe something could have been done differently. I think that's an attitude that I've always had. I always look at what I could have done differently. Sometimes, yeah, it's pretty hopeless. But I think the majority of the time, there are things you could have done differently, and you need to look at the possible rippling effects that could have had, and maybe it actually could have changed the outcome of the match, even though it doesn't seem like it, because the game is so snowbally like that. So that's all I wanted to talk about. It's an interesting topic, and I think it's pretty cool thinking about all the things that can happen from one decision. So that is it, guys. Hope you enjoyed this small little video, and that is it. Never mind, this is 11 minutes. Holy shit.